Hi guys, this is Mrs. Denny. Welcome back to Hire Me for this week. Last week we talked about interview attire, what to wear, what not to wear, and this week we're going to talk about some basics about expectations for interviewing in general and specifically to the internship program. So before you go to any interview, the first and most important thing you need to do is to research the company as thoroughly as you possibly can. You want to learn all that you can about the company. You also want to research anybody that you think you might be interviewing with if you know who they are, so that you understand who they are and what they do. You want to, during that research, you want to really figure out what they do so that you can talk about that in the interview and show the people you're interviewing with that you've done your research, because that's extremely impressive. It's one of the things that most every company or anybody will tell you is important to an interview, but most people will tell you that kids don't do it anymore. And it's super important. It sets you apart from everybody else. While you're doing your research on the company or the people you're interviewing with, you can also use that to prepare some questions you may want to ask based on what you find out about the company. And you can jot those questions down in your notepad that you're going to learn about here in just a second, that you're going to bring with you to the interview. And once you come up with some of those questions, write them down so that you'll have them ready to take with you. Also, before the interview, it's really important that you know where this place is that you're going for this interview. Not that you think you know, or it's really important, especially as you're well, anytime, but especially as you're starting out, that you do what we call a drive-by ahead of time. Find out where the company is located and go ahead and drive to the location of the interview before the day of the interview, so you're sure you know where to go. And sometimes these places are in giant business complexes and everything looks alike and it gets very confusing. So it's good and it gives you a sense of security if you know exactly where you're supposed to go. Then also plan your interview departure time the day of your interview to get you to the interview location at least 15 to 20 minutes early. You're not going to go in 15 or 20 minutes early, but it gets you there and in the parking lot so that you can breathe easy, relax, know you're there, and just take some time to get yourself together before the interview. This is called a pad folio. Some people, it's like a faux leather folder basically that has a place for a notepad to be in it. And it also has a folder space on the opposite side. Once you open it up, you see there's like a folder space and then a notepad. This shows it both open and closed. You need to have something like this when you attend interviews. You're not going to carry in a 3-ring binder from school or any kind of school paraphernalia or notebooks. You're going to need to carry something that's professional. It doesn't have to look exactly like this. And more than likely, your parents already have something like this that you can just borrow. If not, you can find them very cheaply on Amazon or Target or Walmart. They're just made out of vinyl, but they look professional. And you'll notice there's a notepad already in here. This is the notepad that you're going to write down the questions that you formulated based on the research that you did. I don't know if you can see it, but over here to the side, there's a little place for a pen. So you can already have your pen in there. So it's one less thing you have to worry about. You've got your pen, you've got your notepad. And over here on the other side where there's the folder part, you can put your copies of your resumes and references that you need to take to the interview and have them in there ready to go, ready to hand someone. And then guys, you wouldn't need to carry anything else with you to the interview but this. Girls, you may still want to carry a purse, but this would be the only thing else you need to carry in. When you get to the interview, the day of the interview, you want to arrive in the parking lot about 15 to 20 minutes early, but wait in your car, get yourself settled, make sure your phone is silenced before you get out of the car. And then about 5 to 10 minutes before the actual interview, go into the building and find the office and enter, okay? It's very important that you are polite and friendly to everyone. The minute if you walk past a janitor who is emptying the trash, you need to be polite and friendly to them, because you never know who the people you're interviewing with are going to ask about you. How did that person interact with you? What did they do? Because that's an important aspect of your character. So be polite and friendly to everybody. When you walk in, typically most of these places will have some sort of receptionist and you'll walk up and introduce yourself. Be nice, be friendly. And then once she or he tells you to go ahead and take a seat, they're going to call whoever you're interviewing with. While you're waiting in the reception area, do not get out your phone and play on your phone or look at your phone. That is not the time to do that. You use this time to look over your resume, open your pad folio that you're taking with you and write some things on the paper. Look at the questions that you created. Just get yourself centered and thinking about your actual interview and nothing else. During the interview, so they come and get you from the reception area and they walk you to wherever you're going to do the actual interview. You wait to be told to sit before sitting. So you don't just go and take a seat. They'll let you know, here, take a seat right over here. And when they say that, then you can sit. Until then, you remain standing until someone tells you where to sit. If someone puts out their hand for you to shake hands with, or you can do that because that is a very appropriate thing to offer to shake hands, you give them a nice firm handshake, nothing too aggressive and nothing too flimsy and cold fishy. We want a nice firm handshake with whoever, multiple people if possible, who you're interviewing with. While you're interviewing, you want to make natural eye contact. You don't want to stare the people down, never removing your eyes from them. And you also don't want to never look them in the eyes. You just need natural eye contact. You want to watch your posture and your body language. You don't want to be slouched back in the chair with your legs crossed, hanging out like you're watching a movie. This is an interview, so we want to be very professional, which means we're sitting up straight and we have our ankles crossed, or we can cross our legs, but it's not the laid back, casual, I'm laid back in this chair kind of look. And then try really hard not to do nervous tick behaviors like clicking your pen, which a lot of you guys do when you come to interviews because you're nervous, or tapping your fingers or anything like that. Just try to be aware of that and keep yourself from doing that if at all possible. Also, during the interview, you want to make sure you take notes throughout the interview. That's why you have your Padfolio with you. Number one, your resume and cover letter and everything else is in there. You open it up, you have your notepad, and as you're doing the interview, if they say things to you that are like, hey, after the interview, follow up with so-and-so, that's, you're going to write that name down, write things down. It shows that you're paying attention. It shows that if they tell you something that's interesting to you, write that down. If they say, hey, go check out this website, write it down. Because if you don't do that, they're thinking, oh, this kid's never going to remember the stuff that I'm telling them. And also, while they're talking to you and interviewing you, if you think of a question, you're like, oh, I need to ask that, but you don't have the chance, jot it down while they're interviewing you. And then that way, when they come back later and ask you if you have any questions, you have the question you thought of during the interview. Relax and try to answer questions to the best of your ability. Remember, this is a conversation. It's not an attack. They're not there to hope that you're horrible. If they're interviewing you, it's because they want you to be the best. They want you to be great. They want to hire you. They want to pick you. So you just got to relax and have a conversation and let them see who the best you can be is. They want to see you. And so just try to have a conversation and not treat it so much like it's just them talking and you answering. When the interviewer says at the end of the interview, do you have any questions? Your answer is always and must always be yes. And you have to ask at least one question more if you've come up with more, because it shows that you're interested and you want this job and you've put some thought into it and you listened during your interview. Or if your questions are about stuff you came up during your research, it's even more impressive because it shows that you did the research and that you have questions about what you learned. So you always say yes. If the interviewer says, do you have any questions? And you say no, that's a bad sign. Okay, they can't possibly have answered all of your questions. You have to come up with them. A great one to ask is, can you describe to me what a really good quality intern for you would look like? Give them the opportunity to tell you how you could be successful. It's a very general question and not necessarily about their company, but that's a good question to ask. At the end of the interview, when they're done and they've asked you if you have any questions and you say yes and you ask your questions and it kind of comes to an end, they say, well, thank you so much. They're going to stand up. You're going to stand up. You shake hands with the people interviewing you. You smile and you thank them for their time. They'll probably walk you out or you'll walk yourself out. Make sure you say thank you to the receptionist once again or anybody else that you interacted with that you pass on the way out, and you exit the building. And then after the interview, this is a big thing. Within 24 hours of the interview, but not right when you get down to your car, within 24 hours of the interview, you want to write and send a thank you email to your interviewers. You will send a separate email to each individual you interview with. It cannot be a blanket email to everyone who was in the interviewing room with you. It would be a separate email to each of them. And then within 48 hours, you're going to follow that up with a handwritten thank you card to your interviewers that you will send in the mail to their place of business. You're going to learn more about this next week. We're going to teach you what goes in this thank you email and the thank you card and all of that. So I'm not going to get into details about that, but just know that that is a requirement through our program and something that you should do for the rest of your life, no matter what. And we'll explain more about that next week. Okay, that's about all I have on all of this. There are two other, there's another presentation you're going to look through and a quiz you're going to take for this week. And then, like I said, next week's going to be all about thank you notes. Oh, and there is another assignment. It's all going to be put on Google Classroom. Wish that we got to do this in person because there's so much more we could demonstrate, but hopefully this is working and you guys are doing your due diligence and paying attention. Thanks so much.